Welcome to IT-Conductor. We are a monitoring service for SAP from the cloud, and this is the first of the video series to introduce the basic feature of our cloud-based SAP monitoring. Well, first thing, when you enter our cloud IT-Conductor service, as soon as you downloaded the agent which connects our service with the SAP environment that you're monitoring, within an hour we'll be able to monitor your SAP environment. So this is a basic panel that comes pre-delivered, and everything we will step through will showcase some of the basic features out of the box working. So as far as uptime is concerned, within an hour you'll be able to start monitoring the vital availability and performance metric. A lot of this can be customized and added down the line, but the time to value is fairly quick. So on the top left you have the agent. This is the agent that runs on your environment as far as connectivity that allows your environment to talk to the IT-Conductor cloud. That is the only piece of software that you need. There is no other agent installed on your environment. These are the SAP systems that you monitor. As soon as you create a system and connect it, we'll be able to start discovering the application servers, the environment, and we will start monitoring the basic metrics and categories. Okay? And these are the alerts that can occur in your system and show up here as one of the panels. On the right-hand side, we have a service grid. That service grid allows us to have service-oriented monitoring so that the architecture will propagate up the alerts from the bottom up. So for instance, if any of these application servers for this particular SAP system goes into alert status, it will then trickle up and show the appropriate level on the system and then eventually the service hierarchy. Okay, let's take a look at some of the basic features. Again, this is the first introduction, so we will introduce the out-of-the-box features. A lot of these can be customized customer by customer and provide additional functionality and more advanced functionality. Okay, so one of the things that we do for CCMS is with SAP there are thousands and thousands of alerts which floods the traditional SAP monitoring as well as Solution Manager. We, on the other hand, tackle the approach that within a context of alerts, we categorize them so that it helps you focus on, let's say, the last 24 hours or some customer period, what the top occurrence of issues are in your systems as far as the alerts that have occurred. And then from there you can either filter them out or create additional monitors for those ones that you care about and ignore the ones that you don't care about simply because they're not important or SAP has got some really low thresholds configured and you don't really want to see them in terms of alerts or thresholds that might flood your monitoring. Okay, so while that's been up, we will also take a look at the alert out of the box. You as a subscriber can essentially subscribe to monitors and the alerts that come by. So for instance, if we are getting an alert, this particular email has a context sensitive, we do monitor the heartbeat, which is the agent connection to the cloud. If for whatever reason, similar to an SAP router, for instance, if it's not reaching the cloud services, we will also alert you to that matter so that obviously we would not be able to monitor if that's out of service. And then that can say notify your email. When you click on the email, it's context sensitive and it will take you into the appropriate graph. So for instance, an alert was generated a couple of days ago. We have the feature where you can compare. If you can't find that in the current context or the time frame, we have comparison mode which defaults to the previous set of time, let's say on the previous day. Once you do that, it will show you the actual comparison, same hour on the previous period So as you can see, in the previous period, which is a day before that, we had an issue with the agent and it wasn't able to reach it. So you can see that it was out of connectivity right there. And out of the box, the basic alert will notify when that occurs and the actual time that it occurred, so that you can address the connectivity issue. Okay, so what else can we look at as far as once we're into the console? For instance, you can click into the environment, and its SID is monitoring. So for instance, the performance overview is high level, and when we look at the performance, we look at common things that other SAP customers have indicated to us as an interest as far as what they like to look at. The performance overview will allow us to put on a single pane of glass different metrics overlapping each other, and it's customizable again to help us troubleshoot or put in the same synchronized time what the issue is. So let's take a look. So for instance, here you have the dialog response times of various servers in that particular SAP system, the users logged on, the CPU utilization, any page activity on those servers, SAP memory management. So if there's a process that's consuming a lot of memory, or that the server is running low on available SAP memory, or they go into private mode, etc. We put these as common use SAP customers have expressed that they would like to see as far as a high level 30,000 feet overview of how their systems are performing. Again, any of these can be triggered in terms of thresholds out of the box. So we have the feature also that you can, let's say for instance, see that this particular app server is running pretty high. So if you can take it out, let's say that one we know may not be a dialog app server in the logon group, maybe servicing batch or RFC may have high. Most of the time you can exclude any of them out of the view. So in this case, you can click on any instance, it will exclude it out. Again, in the drill down, you can also get the similar functionality. For instance, you will be able to either, let's say, see this one at 7:30. If you want to zoom in any one of these, you can click on that time. And we collect on a schedule basis. I think default for each of the retrieval for this particular metric is 15 minutes. If you don't find it here, you can scroll it and see if you're able to see the spike. So each small increment is one interval of a minute. We can click and be able to see where that spike occurs and pinpoint where the problem may be. So let's see, right now we have not found it. Let's go a couple more. It's a 30-minute interval, so it could happen anywhere in that interval. There you go. Now that we find one instance where this application server spiked to 8 seconds response time for that particular sample. Okay. Back to main console, let's just show you, again, we have this other screen that came back with the CCMS alerts. The alerts itself, again, categories. If you hover above, you will see that this system in the last 24 hours had a lot of security alerts and data supplier, some background type. So for any of these, if you're not interested in them, you can, for instance, take them out. And so background, you can exclude that category from analysis, and it will take it out and give you a more kind of a zoom-in analysis of that information. So while that's doing that, we're looking at, again, a lot of thousands, so almost 60, 70, 80,000 CCMS alerts within the last 24 hours. So can you imagine doing that in the traditional CCMS manner? It will be almost useless information for you. But in our case, we're able to filter and let you dive in more. Now, related to that, when we look at alerts, we also look at time synchronized. So the same CCMS alerts can be viewed from the time slice perspective. So within a 24-hour, we have an hourly look at how many alerts are you getting per hour. So there might be a period where it spiked, and you'll be able to drill in and see something a little bit more interesting. What may happen at a particular hour, for instance. So let's say this 8 a.m. this morning. If you drill into that, you'll be able to bring up the actual CCMS alerts that occur. And once you're in this mode, obviously, you can zoom in, and for instance, I might find it useful to look at monitoring object, for instance. If I'm interested in particular category, the same category that shows up over here, for instance, background. If it's background information, you might want to see what background alerts are occurring in the system, and you can do it this way. So each and every one of these alerts has detailed information, and the detailed information that we collect and store on our cloud environment lets you also create filters. So if you want to look for a particular job or user every time they fail, maybe a critical job at month end, you can go ahead and create a new monitor or threshold for that job itself, and in terms of that, you can then get alerted or notified when something occurs with that job. SAP reports it. Okay, so this is kind of a time synchronized manner of looking at alerts that's more useful than just get 50, 80, 100,000 SAP alerts in a 24-hour period. Okay. It also helps you to tune and turn off things in CCMS that might be very useless for as far as the monitoring is concerned. So a lot of alerts might happen because out-of-the-box SAP might generate them without saying how important they are within your environment. Okay, so part of that also, now that we have ability to track those alerts, we can also create any of these alerts. For instance, the failed batch jobs, as you can see in the previous alert screen. Out of the box, we track failed batch jobs, so that it might be useful for you to have operations monitor when a lot of batch jobs fail and what jobs they are, generate alerts and send them to the appropriate team. Okay, so for instance, in this case, you can again click into any one of these and see the specific jobs that fail. Right? So in this case, this particular job failed quite often. So somebody might want to look into that in more detail. Okay. Or send that to a notification subscription so that it will email the appropriate team. Now, as far as the utilization is concerned, also we find that useful if you are able to, for instance, if your system is under strain, maybe you're running out of dialog processes because there's a large workload. Or maybe there's a problem and a lot of processes are either hung waiting on perhaps a deadlock. You might consume a lot of the available work processes in SAP. So utilization just tells us that the ability for us to have an indication when either more needs to be configured or your service is under-configured, or just a general indication of a problem. So we find that to be useful. So out of the box, we turn that feature on where utilization of the environment can be monitored. So let's see, as far as, so in here, before you can see we turn off background, and that's no longer in this chart. All right, so in the utilization overview, you can see, looking at the SAP ABAP service, you have dialog, background, update 1, update 2, spool, etc., etc. So you can see that, for instance, in this case, there was a period at noon where an app server experienced a high utilization of work processes. Right? So at noontime on app server 7, if you want to look at it and say, hey, what's going on? Maybe something was running and consuming a lot of these. So from the 12 o'clock, app server 7, 62%. What if you wanted to actually find out? We have the ability, if we go back to our monitoring here, we have the ability to look at an application server's work processes. So it might be useful to troubleshoot. So for instance, one of the features we do enable is these discovered application servers. For instance, app number 7, I think it was 7. So if app number 7 has a particular time period, so let's click into this and find out when it may have been that we had this high spike in utilization of the work processes. We can track down, maybe locate what was running. So one of the features that we promote is to be able to go back in history and have time synchronized information that help determine the root cause of the problem. So you can see here at 12:12 when we did the sample, this app server had 62% utilization of the dialog work process queue. So let's see, in our view of the application server, if you click on the application server icon, one of the features we turn on is work processes. So if you click on work processes, you're able to look at the time frame here and move. Oh, we don't want to move that far. Okay, we move. You can scroll or type in the time, but since we sample every customizable, but out of the box is every 15 minutes, we should be able to scroll not too many intervals to find. So as you can see, this is historical snapshot, which is impossible for you to get after the fact unless you are sitting at SAP SM50 at the time it happened. But let's say you have a work process situation, and you like to see what was running at the time. You can actually scroll back and find. So we can see starting this period here, 12:35, not 12:12 yet, but close. We have a lot of work processed by this PM user. And scroll one more, 12:22. So there's quite a high degree of usage in that. And so that period there, when it starts sampling, it looks like this sample period, we can see a lot of work process being consumed. So you can see what it was doing at that time, and you're able to even click into that work process and see more detail if it's available. It's on hold, it's waiting for RFC. So you get a little bit more insight as to what was being utilized on this server. So in this case, it looks like there was a high RFC traffic on that app server. Looks like a whole bunch of things fired off, and it's waiting on resources. So this, again, we can do the same thing as far as our ability to drill down on historical. So you see we went from a 30,000 feet level down to about 10,000 feet, be able to see what's going on there and determine what was actually running at that point in time. Step one back too far. Let's go back to this view. And again, so in the application server, we have the ability to again drill down. So this is a different view where if you wanted to service view, you can click this and we'll get one more level detail on app servers. I actually want to go back and then show you the rest of what's available inside the app server. So for each app server, we also have the ability to look at active users, OS processes like top 10, top number of active users on that box, and, historically similar to work process. Out of the box, I don't think we turn these ones on. We can turn it on if the need arises per client. Okay. So let's go back here and drill down into availability. So similarly with the file updates, short dumps we provide. So if you're looking at ST22, we can also gather information about short dumps in a time synchronized manner. By the way, any of these graphs here you see, the short dumps also can trigger a separate alert. So if you want to look for a particular type of short dump that happens quite often in your system, you can trigger those. And these also have the additional feature that We call it troubleshooting context, where you can overlay multiple layers of information at the same time frame that may help you troubleshoot the root cause of a problem. Okay. Let's look at, so one of the things that out of the box SAP should be able to tell you, but it's not that easy to do and takes a lot of effort, is availability monitoring. In our case, it's quite simple for us. When we monitor from our cloud, we'll be able to tell if the heartbeat is going, we have connectivity to your environment, and then for each application server, we actually perform an availability check. So we're able to log on, get work process information, then it's available. If we can't log on, it's not available. So you can see here, there's 100% availability, okay, over the last 24 hours. You can also, again, compare to previous time frames and see if there's a period. So there's a period here where we were unable to get server information. Okay, availability could mean that the server's down, or the service is down, or somehow affected, and it would go into alarm. Okay. Again, you can create thresholds overrides so that, you know, let's say it's not doesn't just wait till it's 0% to notify. It could be, you know, you have 5 app servers and 3 of them are down. You could create a custom threshold, which basically tells us, gives us availability for, so for instance, in this case, a warning level 80%, and alarm and severity, etc. So you can create the custom threshold, which is a nice thing to do in a subscription-based model. Okay, so for some of the database-specific monitoring, since we discover any SAP database that is supported, we're able to automatically monitor. So SQL Server, Oracle, DB2, etc. We're able to monitor. So out of the box, you can see some of these, you know, metrics that are maybe useful. So in terms of backups, utilization, if you have a high utilization, in this case SQL Server, you can get a metric of CPU utilization. Okay, 4%, that's not a problem. But let's say you had a lot of high database intensive SQL, that might show up and you might be able to alert those. You can look at things like hit ratio. Obviously, it's important to keep it above a certain level. Again, for those, we capture that, you know, so sometimes this case is 100%. System's been running for a while, but it may not be the case all the time. So you can look at historical and compare to previous days, etc., periods of time. So you can compare within our ability to compare. You can look at, you know, hours, day, week, etc. So you can baseline the information. Okay, what other things that might be useful? For instance, maybe data files. So SQL Server, you might look at, let's say, log, free space. Sometimes log could get filled up. In this case, that's not a problem. You can also look at the auto growth flag is on or not, or access time. So access time might be very important. So if you have a volume, access time might spike. When there's a disk I/O issue, performance can trickle up the service. You can, by default, we don't create thresholds on here, but you could override this and create a threshold if you wish to, as far as easily saying, you know, if I have my access time to my particular file, I want to be able to, for periods of time, create based on an average alarm value, some value here. Let's say if I want 20 milliseconds, I can put in 20 milliseconds, and if it's greater or equal, and I can pick the severity, so it may generate a warning. And alarm value just determines, if you have a lot of alarms, which one will take high priority. Okay, so again, there's quite a bit of customization you can do here. Okay, and then once you're done, you can just create severities, warning. Okay, so that creates an alarm. Basically, we use regular expression as well. So some of the context here, you can do it like based on, let's say you have a lot of log files, you might be able to do a dot asterisk will cover multiple log files with the same threshold. So again, that is the database specific, but in each of the application server, you might be able to get in and get more information if you wish on the specific things that we monitor. So out of the box already, you're able to get utilization, CPU average, etc. for that particular app server, database response times, So this one had quite a bit of a spike here. Again, those are out of the box. We're able to look at DB request times. We look at response times for the dialog, various memory utilization. So these are more troubleshooting that you can go back in time and look at information. So as far as things such as also the percentage use of the various drives that are on the app servers, we also monitor that. Okay, so you might have a situation where we had a customer where the logs are filling up with work process logs, so it's just writing gigabytes of information to the drive. It filled it up. The alert was generated and email sent out, and the basis person was able to address the issue without having to take an outage with the app servers. Okay, so that's the kind of high-level overview as far as what the app servers can do. You are able to certainly subscribe to. So in the subscription model, you can subscribe to any alerts here. So by default, you don't have to have any alarms sent to you, but you can then take an alert and then say, I want to subscribe to this type of alert. So different people, it's role-based. You can log on, subscribe to certain alerts. Only you will get those alerts. So it becomes more useful. Basis team might be interested in different things than operations team or management teams. Okay. So this is at the rudimentary alert monitoring for SAP performance and availability. We have the ability in the product to use service-based monitoring. So if you want transaction-based response time to be in a group of, let's say, critical transactions for finance users, sales users, those are additional advanced features we can cover at a different level and detail. But for now, as far as each of these, you can, if let's say for instance you want to be able to turn maintenance on for each one of these app servers because it may be down or you're rotating it out, you can simply activate maintenance on and will ignore all of the alerts that come out of that environment. Or you can do it at the system level. So if you have a system that's down for maintenance, again you can take that off maintenance, which these gray ones are already on that maintenance list, so you don't see any alerts generated. It's basically ignores. Okay, so that wraps up the initial introductory to IT-Conductor for SAP cloud-based monitoring from OZSoft. If you're interested, feel free to visit our website at cloud.itconductor.com. In fact, you should be able to subscribe to our service via OZSoft Consulting and sign up for our free trial. It gives you one system monitoring, and you can be up and running within an hour, get the value out of that. And if you have any questions, feel free to contact us at info@ozsoftconsulting.com or follow the path through our contact us and drop us a question. We'll be happy to give you a demo or address any questions you may have about getting up and running on our product quickly. Thank you.